Masechet Hagigah Daf Chet. The entire daf is talking about one main theme, which is a question: can you use Maaser Sheni money to buy a Korban Hagigah, Shalmei Hagigah? The reason why we would want to do that is because we have to. You have a tenth of your produce that's Maaser Sheni that you're going to bring that food to Jerusalem if you live close. Most people don't live close. They're going to redeem that food for money, and then that money they bring to Jerusalem, and in Jerusalem they have to use it to buy food. Very good. Now, it would be helpful if they could use it to buy the korban chagigah, because that way, it's an expensive item, and you can't use that money for anything else, and it is a food item. So that's the question: can you or can you not? Well, we saw before yesterday, according to Bet Shammai, no, you may not. That makes sense. Bet Shammai says no, because this is something that you have to bring. So here's one of the laws. Maaser Sheni money you have to use for something that's edible and something that's voluntary. You can't double dip. If you had to bring something anyway, a korban chovah, then you can't use your Maaser Sheni money for korban chovah. That's like, giving a donation of your maaser money to your shul and, using it for the breakfast that you eat. You have to pay for your own breakfast. It doesn't work that way. So that's the challenge. So Bet Shammai makes sense. The question is for Bet Hillel. Amar Mor, Bet Hillel omerim min ha'maaser. Bet Hillel says you can bring Shalmei Hagigah, you can buy it with maaser money. Bet Shammai says only from chulin money. So we ask Bet Hillel, Amai, davar shebechovahu, v'chol davar shebechova eno ba'ela min hachulin. And we have, why does he say that? We have a general rule: anything that is it's an obligatory matter. It's obligatory. You have to bring a korban chagigah, and anything that is obligatory, you have to bring from your own non-sacred money. The sacred money of Maaser Sheni can only be brought for voluntary items because you have to give it anyway. So you can't double. Take a double tax deduction on a one contribution. All right, that is the question, and yet Bet Hillel says it's allowed. Amar ula betofel. This is the answer. We're going to discuss the entire daf. Tofel, from the word tafel, like ikar and tafel, the main and something that's extra. So tofel means to supplement or to combine. What this means is that you have a certain amount of what you're paying is from Maaser Sheni, and then you add a certain amount that you're paying is from chulin money, that because you have to bring it, and you can add to that extra Maaser Sheni money. That's what it's talking about. So, but there has to be a combination. The essence of what you're paying for has to be chulin, and even Bet Hillel agrees to that. He just says that you can add extra supplementary money with Maaser Sheni money. Okay, that's ula. And now we're going to have two interpretations of ula. Hagigah Amar, toflin behema livhema, ve'en toflin ma'ot lema'ot. Rabbi Yochanan omer, toflin ma'ot lema'ot, ve'en toflin behema livhema. Okay, Hagigah says, what you can do is you can supplement extra animals, which means the first animal that you buy has to be from chulin money, because you have to buy it yourself with your own money. Then if you want to you have a lot of people coming with you, a lot of people to feed, and you want to buy extra animals to also be Shalmei Hagigah, then that's okay. You can add more animals that you buy with Maaser Sheni money. And that way you can use up your Maaser Sheni money. That's what it's for. You don't have to, because the extra animals are voluntary. And that's what it means. But what you cannot do is add some Maaser money to chulin money for the first animal. In other words, the first animal has to be entirely chulin. You can't mix together money just to buy the first animal, according to Hagigah. Rabbi Yochanan is a little bit more lenient, and he says you can mix money with money. So you're just buying one animal. So remember, the minimum amount for a korban chagigah is 2 ma'ot kesef, 2 silver coins. And so let's say you can buy a really nice, expensive animal that's worth 10 silver coins. So 2 of the silver coins has to be chulin. And then if you want to get the extra nice, extra fat one, then you add 8 more of Maaser Sheni money. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan says. But what you cannot do is add more animals, because if you're adding more animals, that means that animals number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and so on are all Maaser Sheni money. And so there's nothing about, you can't use all maaser sheni money to buy a whole animal that's going to be a korban Hagigah. So that's why he doesn't agree with Chizkiah. But you can mix it within one animal, that's fine. Chizkiah says the opposite. You can't mix it with one animal. One animal has to be totally chulin money. The other animals are just added onto it. Okay, that's the machloket within how to do this supplementing. But either way, both of them are explaining Bet Hillel that you can use maaser sheni money as a supplemental combination. Good. Tanya kivated Chizkiah, Tanya kivated Rabbi Yochanan. We're about to see two baraitot. One is going to support Chizkiah that says you combine animals. One's going to support Rabbi Yochanan that says you combine money. Okay. Heads up, neither of these two baraitot are very explicit. And in fact, later on, we're going to say maybe they agree with each other. But right now, we're trying our best. Tanya kivated Rabbi Yochanan misat melamed she'adam mevi chovato min hachulin u'minayin she'im rasa la'arev me'arev tamod omar kasher yivarecha Adonai Elohecha. So the first Braita is quoting pasuk in Sefer Devarim that says V'asita chag Shemot Adonai misat nidvat yadecha. The word misat, we're going to see in a minute, comes from the Talmud takes from the word mas, meaning a tax, which is a secular tax from your own money. So this means the amount that you're going to bring of your free will contribution. So the Braita says, this teaches that a person brings his obligatory korban Hagigah from chulin, from your own money, not from maaser sheni. And how do you know that if you want to me'arev, if you want to mix it, you're allowed to mix it? Now, if you say mixing, that implies talking about money, because only with money coins, you can mix them all up and you don't know which one's which. When it comes to animals, you can't mix animals together, right? They're individual beings, right? You could tell them apart. And so therefore, implied in the word, if you want to mix, you can mix. That means it's talking about money. And so this first Baraita supports Rabbi Yochanan that you can add more money. You take 2 ma'ot chulin and add more maaser sheni, and that's permitted to use all that money to buy that first animal. Okay. Tanya kivated Chizkiah. And now another Baraita that uses the same word, but is going to support Chizkiah that you mix animals together. Misat melamed she'adam mevi chovato min hachulin. Okay, that's so far that starts the same. You have to bring your obligation from chulin money, and then it elaborates. Bet Shammai omrim yom rishon min hachulin mikan va'elach min hamaaser. Well, the animal that you're bringing, the korban Hagigah that you bring on the first day, that one is obligatory. Therefore, you have to use your own non-sacred money. But from the second day on, you want to bring extra animals, extra shalamim, then you can bring from maaser sheni, which makes sense because you don't have to bring anything on those days. They're extra, they're voluntary. You can use maaser. He doesn't say the first day offerings. He just says the first eating has to be chulin. What do you mean the first eating? It means the first animal that you bring has to be that you paid for from non-sacred money, and the extra animals on the first day can be from maaser money, because all this is on the first day. So this supports Chizkiah that you have to buy one animal totally from chulin money, and you can add extra animals that will still be shalmei Hagigah, and that you could bring maaser according to Bet Hillel. And then he also, Bet Hillel continues and says, Yushar kol yimei Pesach Adam yosei dechovato b'maasar behema. And then on the rest of the days, for sure you could use maaser sheni money. Even Bet Shammai agrees to that. And he adds, you can also use maasar behema. If you have a lot of any animals that were born during that fiscal year of animals, you have to take a tenth of them, and you bring them, and you can eat them yourself. In Yerushalayim, like Maaser Sheni. It has similar law to Maaser Sheni, and you can use those animals themselves as donations for Shilamim on days 2 and on. Okay, that's the end of the Braita, and so you see it's clear from this Braita that's talking about the first eating. Right now we're assuming first eating means the first animal that you bring. We're going to give another interpretation of this Braita in a few minutes. Now, question. Beyom Tov my Tama la. How come I can't bring the Ma'asar Behema on Yom Tov? How come on Yom Tov I can't use that as one of them? After all, according to Bet Hillel, I'm allowed to use Maaser Sheni money for my second animal, right? So as long as I buy one animal with chulin, second, and so on, I can use maaser sheni money. So if I can use maaser sheni money to buy extra animals on the first day, why can't I use maasar behema, which is the same, has the same law as maaser sheni? And the answer is Amar Rav Asher Dilma Atela Asure Biyom Tov. Because you may come to actually separate the 10th animal, each 10th animal on Yom Tov itself, if you didn't separate them before. And how would they do separate them? They would take all the animals that were born during that year, put them into a pen, and make a little opening they have to go single file, and they would count 1 to 8, 9, 10, and 10th one they would mark with red paint. And then another 9 would go through, and 10th one mark with red paint. That painting you cannot do on Yom Tov. That is a melacha. And so therefore, we do not allow the farmer to give any offerings from Ma'asar Behema on Yom Tov, lest he come to paint them and separate them in that way on Yom Tov. Okay, and lastly, we were assuming this whole time, we were learning from the word misat, and that means non-maaser sheni money, non-sacred money. Chulin, dichtiv vayasem hamelech Hashverosh mas al haaretz. Hashverosh takes a tax upon the land. That's a non-sacred tax because it's a Hashverosh. All right, good. Now, we go on to the next part of the Mishnah, where we're going to come back to the topic that we were talking about before. Yisrael yotzin yidei chovatan ben darim undavot. The second half of our Mishnah that we saw yesterday said that when you want to be happy on the holiday, you want to fulfill your mitzvah of being happy. It's not just about playing board games and having fun with each other. The particular mitzvah, the way that you fulfill it, is by eating meat. Okay, and what kind of meat do you eat? Well, the Mishnah gave a whole list, and this following Baraita is going to repeat the list and bring a source. Tenor banan, v'samachta b'chagecha. So we have 2 words here. You should be happy on the holiday. So the word to be happy, that is an inclusive word. We're going to see b'chagecha is an exclusive word. You should be happy, but only in the way that you are happy on a chag. Let's see what this means. So v'samachta l'rabot kol mines semachot l'simcha. So v'samachta comes to include all kinds of happy things, meaning all kinds of sources of food that make you happy. Mikan amru chachamim. Yisrael yotzin yidei chovatan bin darim undavot ma'asar behema. So you can enjoy the holiday with meat from all these sources, neder or nedava, anything that was a voluntary offering that you made a vow either upon yourself, I owe a vow, an animal, or you said this particular animal I am going to donate. So donations, ma'asar behema, as we talked about, every 10th animal you enjoy yourself, so you can use that to make your meal and enjoy it. And then kohanim, Kohanim, they get these gifts as Kohanim. Whenever someone else brings in a chatat and asham, the Kohanim eat part of it. Whenever someone brings a bechor, the Kohanim get to eat part of it. Whenever someone brings other shalamim, the Kohanim get to have the chazeh and the shok. Good. So what all these have in common is they're all animals. Now you might come and say, maybe I can enjoy and fulfill the samachta with birds and with meal offering. Some people like birds. Talmud Lomad v'samachta bechagecha. You should enjoy with your chag. What does chag mean? Mi shechagigah b'hamehem yatzu elu she'en chagigah b'hamehem. You can only fulfill the technical mitzvah v'samachta with an animal that you can use as a shelmei chagigah. And what can you use for chagigah? Only animals and not birds and meal offering. And so those are excluded. So yeah, you're allowed to have chicken and duck and pancakes, but you're not going to fulfill your mitzvah of simcha with those items. There has to be meat, but the meat can be from all of those different sources. That's the first way we learned it. And now Rav Asher Amar mi v'samachta nafka yatzu elu she'en behem simcha. That before was a braita. Rav Asher is coming. He agrees with the law of the braita, but he's saying a different way of learning it, deriving it from pasuk. He says I can learn all that just from the word v'samachta, because the other items are not so happy. Right? People are much happier if you serve them, a lamb shank, all right, or a ribeye or something, or a nice steak, it brings much more happiness than just giving a chicken wing. And so therefore, simcha by itself, I don't need the word chagecha to learn that you can have to have animal meat. Okay, great, Rav Asher. Chazak Baruch, you derived it from just one word, but now what are you going to do with the other word, chagecha, which is now extra according to you? ההוא לכתב דניאל בר קטינא, דאמר רב דניאל בר קטינא אמר רב, מניין שאין נושאים נשים במועד, שנאמר ושמחת בחגיך ולא באשתך. Oh, they'll use that for another law. That, how do you know you're not allowed to do nisuin during Chol HaMoed? You could do kiddushin because that's davar ha'aved. If you don't do kiddushin and grab her, someone else is going to go and marry her first, right? So you can do kiddushin, but nisuin you cannot do on Moed because we saw before, en me'arvin simcha b'simcha, or another formulation. Here, you should be happy regarding the holiday and not be happy because you married your wife. You should focus your attention on the joy of the holiday, if it's the theme of the holiday, whatever is Pesach and redemption, and not be distracted with a different happiness. And so that's what Rav Asher will use that pasuk for. All right, and now next Mishnah. מי שיש לו אוכלים מרובים ונכסים מועטים, מביא שלמים מרובים ועולות מועטים. We're talking about different types of people who have different needs, and so that's why we have a flexibility in the number of korbanot that you're going to bring. So someone who has a lot of people that are coming to eat, he's invited over a lot of people, he has a lot of family and friends, so he needs a lot of food, and he's on a limited budget, right? Nechasim mu'atim. That person should bring many korban shelamim, because korban shelamim is basically like a barbecue. Only a little bit goes to the kohanim and to the mizbeach, and most of the meat you eat. And only bring fewer olot. You have to bring one olah. You have to bring olah to the iyah. So don't bring so many olot. Bring more shelamim, and that way, even on a limited budget, you can feed a lot of people. Nechasim merubim ve'ochlim mu'atim. Mevi olot berubot ushlamim mu'atim. Let's say you're a person who is very wealthy, but he doesn't have a lot of people. He doesn't have so many friends, small family, but he wants to spend money to show his gratitude and excitement for coming for Aliyah L'Regel. Then he should buy a lot of olot. Because those are expensive and they will all go on the Mizbeach, and he could buy a few shalamim, and that way he won't have a lot of extra leftover, right? That's one of the laws of shalamim, is that you have to eat the whole thing within a limited amount of time, and so you don't want to make more shalamim than you can eat yourself. Of course, you could always invite other poor people and invite Leviim. Okay, so if he has less eaters, so bring more olot and less shalamim. The person is limited in both. He doesn't have a lot of funds, and he also has a small family. So that person could just bring the minimum. The minimum is 1 silver coin for an olah, 2 silver coins for a shilamim. That's it. Just bring a couple of animals for a relatively small amount of money, and he fulfills the obligation. The person is blessed with wealth and with a big family and a lot of friends, and he wants to buy a lot of poor people also. Great. Then he can buy a lot of olot and a lot of shalamim according to the blessings that Hashem has given him, and the more the better. Okay, so really nice, a very beautiful Mishnah, recognizing the different needs of each person and how there is a structure, but within that structure, there's also a lot of flexibility for each different kind of person. Okay, now question. You said if a person is of limited means, right? He's on a tight budget, he should bring many shalamim. How's he going to bring a lot of shalamim if he's on a tight budget? He won't be able to afford the shalamim either. So now we go back to the topic that we started with. Rav Chisda explains he should supplement with ma'aser sheni money. You see, even a person who's on a budget is on a budget because his regular usable salary that he has to pay for all his utilities and all his expenses is limited, and that's chulin money. So of the chulin money, he doesn't have too much to spend on extra animals. So for that, he brings 2 coins for a shilamim. But Ma'aser Sheni money, he has a lot, right? Because he took a tenth of all of his produce, and he has to spend that whole tenth within a few days of the holiday. So even someone of limited means will have a lot of Ma'aser Sheni money because it's dedicated to eating on the holiday in Yerushalayim. So Rav Chisda says that's why this explains it. He just brings two silver coins. Even a limited guy can afford that, and then he adds to it more money. Maybe he'll add 10 more and buy a nice big fat cow for 12 silver coins, and that he can afford. Good. So what you see from Rav Chisda is that he's assuming you're adding money to it, right? And that was the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan before, that you add money to money. You mix the supplement is money. But Rav Sheshat, the colleague of Rav Chisda, says, hold on. The rabbis had said that you can supplement more animals to another animal, but one whole animal at least has to be from chulin, and then you could add extra animals. So not tofel u'mavi par gadol. It can't just be devoted to one animal. So this seems to be a challenge. Okay, now we're going to discuss this statement of Rav Sheshat. What exactly did he mean? My kamarle, ilem hachi kamarle hare amru toflin behema libhema, aval lo ma'ot lema'ot. That's the way I just explained it. If Rav Sheshat is objecting to Rav Chisda and say, no, you can only supplement more animals to the first animal, but you cannot supplement money to money. You can't supplement Ma'aser Sheni money to chulin money to buy one big fat animal. He's objecting to Rav Chisda. If that's what he meant, he should have been clearer. He should have said you cannot supplement one type of money with another type of money, right? But he didn't say that. He didn't say you can't use to add money to money. He said you can add more animals to the first animal. So he's not objecting to be more stringent. He's actually saying we should be more lenient, and says not only, Rav Chisda, you're right, you can do that. Or if you want to, let's say you have one animal already and you've used that and you paid for chulin, and you want to buy more animals because you are on a limited budget, but you have a lot of people and you need to buy a lot of animals, then you can also take your Ma'aser Sheni money and buy more animals and add it to the first animal. You can do either way. All right, that's even better. Now we just helped them out. Okay, Kiman. Now, so we conclude that Rav Sheshat is being totally lenient, and you could do either option. Kiman, delake Chizkiah or delake Rabbanan. Yeah, but who is Rav Sheshat following? He's not following either of them, because Chizkiah said you can combine an animal with another, but not monies. Rabbi Yochanan says you combine monies, but not animals. Neither of them said you could do both. Maybe you'll say it's true that Amoraim, Chizkiah, and Rabbi Yochanan are arguing with each other and are mutually exclusive. But remember, we brought two baraitot, one to support Chizkiah and one to support Rabbi Yochanan. Maybe the two baraitot are not arguing with each other. They're supplementing each other about supplementing. And they're saying you could do it this way or you could do it that way. The word misat can mean either one. And so Rav Sheshat is actually following both baraitot, even though these Amoraim argue, the baraitot don't argue. All right, so we're going to try to make that work. Hold on, in that second baraita that we brought, we used the words that the first eating has to be from chulin. And we assumed when we read that, it means that the first animal that you eat has to be chulin, and a chulin animal. That means a whole animal that you bought with chulin money, and only the second animal and so on can be from ma'aser. And so that's why we use that to support Chizkiah, that you can combine animals only. And then that what it means? My achila rishona. Well, maybe it doesn't mean that. Shi'ur deme achila rishona min achulin. Maybe it means the amount of money that you need to spend on that one animal. The minimum amount, meaning 2 ma'ot, has to be from chulin. But the rest of the money that you spend, even on the first animal, so that's what it means, the first eating, meaning the first animal that you eat, you have to spend a minimum of 2 ma'ot from chulin, but then the rest of the money can be from ma'aser. And so you see that second baraita we can interpret both according to Chizkiah and according to the Rabbi Yochanan, and that's why Rav Sheshat will say, I follow both these baraitot, because these baraitot are not clearly one way or another, they're ambiguous. And so he says, yep, you can do both, and this will help out someone who's coming on a budget and he has a lot of people. He can fulfill his mitzvah of Maaser Sheni and his mitzvah of Korban Hagigah with the same money, as long as he just brings 2 coins of chulin, he can feed everybody and fulfill the mitzvah. Fantastic. Amar Ula Amar Resh Lakish. הפריש 10 בהמות לחגיגתו, הקריב 5 ביום טוב ראשון, חוזר ומקריב 5 ביום טוב שני. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, כיוון שפסק, שוב אינו מקריב. So here's a case of someone, he has 10 animals that he brought, they're all going to be for Korban Hagigah. And he offered 5 of them on day 1 of the holiday, and for whatever reason, we'll see the reasons, he didn't finish. And he brings the next 5 on the next day. Resh Lakish says, that's fine. If you didn't get a chance to finish it today, you'll finish it tomorrow. But Rabbi Yochanan says, no, once you stop, you can't continue. Rabbi Yochanan's reason is Bal Tosif. The law of bring Korban Hagigah applies only 1 day of the holiday. And so if you bring it the first day, that's it. You fulfilled your mitzvah. You can't also bring it other days. Now, it's true. If on the first day you were busy and you weren't able to bring your Korban Hagigah, you could do a makeup day on the second day. If you didn't do it second day, you could do a makeup day any day of the holiday. But those are makeup days for 1 day. But whatever day you pick, it has to be only 1 day. You can't fulfill the mitzvah on 2 or more days. That's Bal Tosif. That's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Resh Lakish would say, no, it's only 1 day, but you didn't get a chance to finish everything on 1 day, so then you're continuing the mitzvah from the first day to the second day. All right, so that's the 2 opinions here. And now we're going to prove for the rest of the daf that actually they're not arguing. Amar Rabbi Abba vela pelige, kan bistam, kan bimfaresh. We're actually talking about 2 different cases, but really they'd agree. Now, the 2 different cases they're talking about is a little bit anti-intuitive. Kan bistam, if you didn't say anything, you just took 10, and you didn't say that they're all going to be for the first day, and then you bring 5 on the first day, well, then that implies, because you didn't say that they're all supposed to be this day, then that means you could have had in mind that the 5 of them are going to be for tomorrow. And I'm going to fulfill Korban Hagigah today, and I'm also going to fulfill it again tomorrow. And that's not allowed. So that's what it means when the Rabbi Yochanan says not allowed. It's when you did not specify anything. But if you did specify at the outset that I'm bringing 10 animals for the first day, I'm going to bring all of them on the first day, and then for whatever reason, you didn't bring all of them, so then you're just continuing that main mitzvah of the first day. You're fulfilling it on the second day. I didn't get a chance to finish. I'm finishing the first day mitzvah on the second day, but it's not a new mitzvah because I said these are all first day mitzvah. These are all first day animals. If I didn't say anything, and then it's as if I said, oh, these 5 are for day 1, these 5 are for day 2. And that's what's not allowed. That's Bal Tosif. Okay. Ha setam hechidame. Now, just question on this. When you say I didn't specify anything, what exactly is the case? Because, sometimes there's implied intention. Ilema delek ashut bayom likarev. Hai delek ribinhu delek ashut bayom. If it's a case where there was no time left during the day, right? I started, there was a long line. I had to go here, I had to go there. One animal ran away, I had to catch him, right? By time I offered 5 of them, and then sunset came, and I didn't have time to finish. In that case, it's clear that the only reason you left 5 for the next day is because you didn't get a chance to finish on the first day, but you wanted to finish on the first day. So that's the same as if you said all of them are for the first day, because it's clear you had a good excuse that you couldn't finish on the first day. So day 2 is just a makeup for what you didn't finish on day 1. And therefore, that would be allowed. It would be the same as mefaresh. Okay, so what's the case of stam? Ela delet le ochlin. Maybe you don't have enough people to eat it, right? Remember, you don't want to sacrifice shilamim when you don't have enough eaters, because then it's going to go to waste, and you're not allowed to waste it. So I thought I'm going to have a lot of company. I'm going to have 10 animals worth of company. Then a few people called me and says, oh, last minute, we can't make it. We're going to somebody else for lunch. And so now I have too many animals for eaters. Well, that also is a good excuse. The reason he didn't do it is because he didn't have enough eaters. In other words, we can assume again that he had in mind all 10 would be day 1, and then he had a good reason not to. And so on day 2, he's making up for the leftover mitzvah of day one, but it's all one mitzvah of day one. So that can't be the case either. Rather, this Tomar a case where he has no excuse. There's plenty of time during the day. He had a lot of guests that would have eaten it, and he just got lazy and he didn't offer them the five on the first. He only offered 5 on the first day, and the rest he left to the second day. By leaving it over for the second day for no good reason, that shows he had in mind that, you know what, I'm going to do a mitzvah today, and I'm going to leave them 5 over tomorrow for another separate mitzvah. And that's not allowed because you can't fulfill Korban Hagigah twice on 2 different days. It's got to be only one mitzvah. You can't add a second fulfillment of the mitzvah. And you know what? Everything that we just said makes a lot of sense. So we quoted Yochanan before, but we don't. It doesn't say who said it. It doesn't say where who transferred this statement from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Someone did, because they know it here in Bavel. But they say it was repeated just in a short way, and we had to figure out what he must have meant just based on logic. But then Rabin came. Rabin is one of the Nuchuta'eh. He would bring traditions from Eretz Yisrael, specifically from Rabbi Yochanan, to Bavel. And in the version that he came with, it was more explicit. He said, you designated 10 animals. And you offered 5 on day 1. You can go ahead and continue on day 2 and offer them. Now, we have a contradiction between the first tradition we had in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, which just said not allowed, and this one that said, if you did it, that's permitted. You can bring the second 5 on day 2. So it's a contradiction of Rabbi Yochanan to Rabbi Yochanan. Oh, but now that we just went through the exercise before, even before Rabin came, we figured it out ourselves. So now it's very clear that there's no contradiction between the 2 statements. Kan bistam, kan bimfaresh. When the Yochanan says it's not allowed, this first statement, that's when he didn't specify anything. Looks like he's doing 2 different mitzvot. But here in this statement is when he said they're all for day 1. In that case, even if he left over some for day 2, it's permitted because it's just continuing day 1 mitzvah. It's only 1 mitzvah, Shema Mina. Okay, good. And another proof. Itmar nameh. Amarav Shemen bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is a third statement in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, who says, Lo shanu ela shelo gamar, aval gamar chozer umakriv. That when we said you can't bring 5 on day 1 and then another 5 on day 2, that's only when you didn't finish. But if you finished, then you can do it. Now, finish what? What does this word mean? My gamad, ilama gamad kobenotav. If you mean that he finished all of his sacrifices on the first day, all 10, well, if you finished all of them, my makriv, well, there's nothing left over on day 2. So ela shelo gamad hayom, aval gamad hayom chozer makriv. Rather means gamad means the day didn't finish. If the day did not finish, then and you still had time and you didn't offer them, why didn't you offer them? You had no excuse. Then you're not allowed to start again on day 2 with the other 5, because that's a new mitzvah. But if the day ended before you got a chance to sacrifice all 10, then on day 2, you can go ahead and continue what you started before. And so that's a third statement in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So I think there's a really great example of the way that they heard the traditions in Bavel from Eretz Yisrael, that sometimes they got them piecemeal. And they got 3 different versions of Rabbi Yochanan's statement in Bavel, but that was actually helpful to them. Each one was a little different, but they were able to piece them all together, so they knew exactly what he said. And the bottom line is, we have now lots of different opinions that say you can use Maaser Sheni money for the Shalmei Hagigah, and that at least partly to supplement it, and that way you can really celebrate with a nice korban of meat and have besamachta bechagecha, and not have to use your regular budget for it, but be able to combine that with also the mitzvah of Maaser Sheni. Baruch Adonai Olam, Amen ve'amen.